Okay, Sarah, are you ready?
I'm ready, Rachel.
Perfect. So, hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Rachael. I'm SheMed's Chief Clinical Officer. Um, and today we're really excited that you'll be joining us to have a conversation with our new partners, Towards. And we're going to dive into a little bit about Towards, what you can expect from this partnership, and introduce you to Dr. Sarah Bateup as well. First things first, just a couple of housekeeping rules. So, this will be a recorded webinar that we will upload onto our app that you can access at any point, and please feel free to do that. We won't be taking any live Q&A session questions today, but of course, if you do have questions afterwards, we will allow or send out to you a way that you can get in contact with us and raise those questions so you can help us formulate the series going forward. So, welcome. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Sarah Bateup. She's the Chief Clinical Officer at Towards. And we're really excited about this partnership that we've formed. Towards is a clinical therapy and training organisation. They have hubs in Leeds and Bristol, but they also have access to their services online. The team provides BABCP accredited support. They have evidence-based psychological therapies, both online and, like I said, in person. And really, this is a way of us determining that people are accredited CBT therapists, and actually we're getting the correct support when required. Now, before we begin, I think it's really important to say that clearly obesity is not simply a matter of willpower. And we've learned a lot in the more recent years, repositioning obesity as a chronic, more complex condition, influenced both by biology, hormone, genetics, external factors that we have no control over. Despite this, though, many people living with obesity for many years have spent a long time being made to feel that they are simply just need to try harder. That has often led to stigma, blame, self-shame, and often having quite a difficult relationship with food or their own bodies. And also that sense of self has had quite a big impact. Um, GLP-1 medication in more recent years have obviously had a really important clinical development in the way that we manage weight and can help address some of those biological drivers of the appetite or the weight. However, as we know, medication alone does not automatically change every habit, every emotion that we feel, or the belief that we have in ourselves, that's often been developed over many, many years. For some people, these areas, such as eating behaviors or confidence, self-esteem, may remain really throughout our lives and often can't be changed in those experiences without some additional support. Psychological support can help make us better understand these patterns and also help support us develop tools to make that longer term change that can support us alongside a GLP-1 journey and longer weight loss change. So, at SheMed, I hope you all know that we recognise that all women's needs are different and we like to treat everybody individual. We know that for some members, medication and clinical support may be everything they need. Others may benefit from more additional support, that being from psychological education, that being from nutritional support. Really, that's why we've decided to partner with Towards. We wanted to offer a more structured support around mental health services and psychological support for individuals. And we've done this in a few different ways. So we've got a structured series of webinars, and we've also got access to therapy services through Towards, that we have done through a partnership that Sarah is going to tell us a little bit more about today. And really, just to say, the aim is not to suggest that everyone needs therapy or that weight management is all in your head. It's about us being able to offer access to a more broader range of services and ensuring that you're getting it from an evidence-based support, and from services that actually we have spoken to and we feel are providing it in the manner that we wish our patients and members to be treated. Um, so what I'm going to do now is just hand over to Dr. Sarah Bateup just so that she can introduce herself, and fill in any gaps that maybe I've missed around Towards.
Thank you, Rachel. You did a fabulous job. Hello, everyone. My name, as Rachel said, is Sarah Bateup, and I'm the Chief Clinical Officer at Towards. I've spent my whole career working in mental health, so over 40 years. As a cognitive behavior therapist, I've delivered about 37,000 hours of therapy. That says more about my age than anything else. There's a golden thread that's run through my career as a senior leader in mental health, and that is that I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact on people's lives. This is really important work. And I'm so excited about this partnership with SheMed. As many of us know, healthcare often is in silos. You go to one place for one part of your healthcare and another place to another part of your healthcare. And psychological health and physical health go hand in hand for all of us, every single one of us. And so it's great to be partnering with SheMed because I truly believe that together we'll make a difference.
Great. Thank you. That was really helpful. And it's really interesting you say that physical and mental health, they go hand in hand. And I think that can lead us quite nicely into our questions that we want to discuss today. So when someone has spent many years trying to manage their weight, what kinds of emotional or behavioral patterns can develop alongside that experience, Sarah?
The answer to that question is really complicated. And as you said earlier on, it's actually different for every single one of us. One person's experience is not necessarily going to be somebody else's experience. However, there are some very typical patterns. So, very often, when we struggle with our weight, we will have emotional consequences. We might feel low in mood. We might have low self-esteem. We might have lots of really horrible, unwanted thoughts about the kind of person that we are and how other people may or may not perceive us. And that drives a cycle of low mood. If you're having these kinds of thoughts, it's not surprising that you're going to feel quite down and quite low. And often it's that drives the cycle. We all need to enjoy ourselves. We all need to do things that we find pleasurable. And whether we like it or not, food is a very, very simple, basic pleasure. And then society has complicated that even further. So, in the food industry, there are scientists who are developing foods that make us feel even better, that give us even more enjoyment, that feeling of chocolate in your mouth or something that might be fatty and sweet. And they call it mouth feel, and it's designed to hook us in. So, it gives us a sense of pleasure but with unintended consequences. So we then feel really bad that we've succumbed and that we've eaten this thing. So we fit that perpetuates our low mood and we're just in this vicious cycle. So that's one very, very simple, basic example. But I want people to know that it's often much more complicated than that. And it's those individual differences that the therapist and the client will be able to work out together.
Amazing. And can you maybe give us some examples or think about how therapy could help us through those kind of different feelings that we've been exposed to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in a first session of therapy, what people can expect initially is to develop a shared understanding of their individual problem. That will mean tracing the problem back as far back as it goes. And sometimes these problems are quite old. They go back a long way. The way that we feel about ourselves, the experiences that we've had in our life shapes, our behavior and it shapes the kind of thoughts we have, the kind of beliefs that we have. So this is what I mean by developing a shared understanding. So that we get to a point where we can say, well, it's hardly surprising, given these experiences that you've had, that you would be experiencing these kinds of thoughts and feelings and therefore struggling in this way. That's the first step, is really understanding what switched this on and what's keeping it going, what's maintaining it. And then once we know that, we can start to think about, well, what are we going to do about it then? And it's thinking about learning a range of skills and strategies and processes that are designed to help people think about their behavior. And often our behavior is driven by our values, the things that are truly important to us, the kind of person that we aspire to be, the kind of partner we aspire to be, the kind of parent we aspire to be, the kind of friend that we aspire to be. And very often, and when we're struggling, we move in the opposite direction. So most of us want to take care of ourselves, but often it's the thing that we struggle with the most. And it's learning to think about how do you prioritize that and what does that mean? And it isn't just as simple as willpower or or just just being able to do something. Um, we know that that's just not enough for pretty much 95% of us. If it was as simple as that, life would be simple.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think the first part of the series that we've got planned actually is also there to help support people understand their weight, behavior change, but also creating new habits. So I wonder if you could help us maybe explain and understand a little bit more about how with therapies, how we can help create those new habits and what that journey could potentially look like.
Well, I think first of all, it's important to recognize that habits are hard to break. We form habits usually because there's some sort of positive reward, even if that positive reward is very short-lived. And we can think of hundreds of examples. Food is one, tobacco is another, alcohol is another. And I could go on, couldn't I? We as human beings, we are hardwired to become addicted to particular substances or particular types of behavior because there is some type of short-term gain. And so breaking the habit is understanding that cycle. What is the short-term gain? What are the unintended consequences? And what is the behavior that you would like to adopt? And then what are the barriers to that behavior? What gets in the way? And very often what gets in the way is the way that we think, and we don't ask for the thoughts that come into our head. They just happen automatically. So it's often the thoughts that get in the way. I'm weak, I'm not strong enough. I'll do it when I feel better. And often we can get stuck in a cycle of procrastination. So we'll put it off. I know that I want to lose weight. I know I don't want to eat that thing, but I will, I'll do it, I'll do it later. And it doesn't happen because often procrastination and perfectionism go hand in hand. So we say to ourselves, if I can't do it perfectly, then I'm not going to do it at all. And so there's another cycle that maintains the habit. So learning to develop new habits is first of all about understanding how did the existing habit happen, what switched that on, and then thinking about what does the new habit look like and what's getting in the way of that habit developing.
Yeah, interesting. And I think often, so we've created these new habits, maybe we have changed and maybe we have managed to lose weight, we're at healthy BMI, and externally people, or you may think to yourself from a frustrated point of view, actually, I'm at a healthy BMI now, I'm at a healthy weight, but ultimately I still don't feel great about myself. And that relationship is quite difficult. And I understand that actually from a psychological support and the therapies that we can support with, that actually we can help manage that. And that's quite a complex kind of situation to be in for many people and can feel quite frustrating. And I wonder if you can help explore how we actually help people on that longer part of that journey. When we've created those habits, we have actually made those changes, but ultimately it's still left in that kind of feeling frustrated at that point.
Yeah, I think that can be truly devastating when that happens. And when that happens, it usually means that there's been an underlying problem all along. That might be chronic low self-esteem, that might be trauma, something that has happened to you, or maybe something that hasn't happened to you. So maybe you haven't, received the kind of love and kindness and care, as you've grown up. Or it could be depression, and low mood. So there's likely to be some sort of underlying problem that needs to be addressed. And often it's that underlying problem that's kind of where that's the link between eating and and obesity and low mood. So we just get stuck in this trap. And so when we've reached our ideal weight and we're looking amazing and people are saying all of these wonderful things to us, you look amazing, wow, well done, this is all really great, but it's almost like that just bounces off because inside that those thoughts haven't changed, those feelings haven't changed. And that's where therapy can really help somebody start to learn to deal with those thoughts, to deal with those feelings, and to start to change not their eating behavior necessarily, but also to change the way that they live their lives. Um, so it's really, really crucial, important learning, and it's also crucial to help somebody maintain that weight loss as well.
Yeah, so I guess what we're kind of saying is that through therapies, the whole aim here is to help people to understand and move away from blaming themselves.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard of it before to say actually it's curiosity. Instead, we should be moving people to be curious to what actually drove that behavior. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that the whole process of therapy is about curiosity. So the therapist will be curious and ask lots of questions and will encourage the client to be curious, almost like they're two scientists, really trying to understand, what's happened, and then together to think about, what needs to happen in order to change this. So it's all about learning, really.
Yeah. Amazing. And I think we've got a series that we're going to be releasing. It's across a number of different areas. Um, I guess I have one question is, or firstly, I think it would be really good just to give a quick overview of what those series is going to cover. I think we've touched on it a little bit, but maybe you could just give a really quick overview of what we're hoping to showcase to everybody during those series.
Absolutely. So we've got 6 webinars, and these I've designed these webinars as a way of sort of dipping your toe in the water, getting some bite-sized insights into emotions and thoughts and things like low self-esteem and guilt.
Mm.
Each webinar there will be a takeaway, something that somebody can go away and practice or do, or a little bit of a sort of a light bulb moment or an insight. And for some people, that may well be enough. Just to think, yeah, I've never really thought about it that way, or yes, I'm going to do that differently. But for lots of other people, it will just be a little taste, and it will demonstrate that maybe people need more of a one-to-one intervention. But either way, it's a really great way of just finding out more. So there are 6 of these webinars, and the first one is about understanding weight and behavior change. And that is just about some of these cycles that I was explaining. So think about how we get stuck in these vicious cycles, which are a bit like traps, if you like, through no fault of our own. Then the next one is talking about confidence and low self-esteem. Lots of people will put something off because they don't feel confident or they don't feel good enough. And that's a trap in itself. We can't go and buy confidence off a shelf. If I'm not a confident swimmer, then the only way of becoming a confident swimmer is to start swimming. And that can be tricky too. So it's thinking about, well, how do I become more confident, or how did this lack of confidence come about? The third one is about creating new habits. So it's building on webinar 1 and webinar 2, and it's starting to think about, well, how can I put this into practice? So expect a couple of sort of hints and tips and strategies in that webinar. The fourth one is about understanding urges and cravings. This is the beginning of that cycle. So very often when we feel stressed or we feel low in mood or a bit fed up or anxious, we might develop, and it's like a knee-jerk reaction, flick of a switch thing, where we have an urge or a craving for something. And it's that starts that habit off. So noticing the urge and craving, and then what can you do about it when it appears? The fifth one is about low mood and depression. Now, often people who are not happy with the way that they look often feel low or depressed. And it's a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? Sometimes it's the low mood and depression that's causing overeating, or sometimes overeating and the way that we feel about our bodies makes us feel low in mood. So it's trying to tease those two apart and understand that. And then the final one is about stress and emotional regulation. We all feel stressed. We all get emotions that we don't like, but sometimes these are the triggers to eating. And it's a really important thing about how to deal with stress and how to deal with emotions because it gives us a better chance to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think the series are also great in that there's a lot of people that maybe haven't accessed therapies before or therapy services. And this could be an eye opener as to kind of what is that? Well, what do you expect? And hopefully can help people to understand a bit more about it. That maybe
Mhm.
they do decide that they need some further support from one-to-one therapies. Um,
Yeah.
I think earlier we spoke towards obviously have face-to-face hubs in two cities. You have online and you've got these webinar series. Maybe you could just tell a little bit more about those two differences of services and also how members maybe could decide what would be the right level of support for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, in my experience, people fall into three categories. So there'll be some people listening to this who absolutely know that therapy is the right thing for them. Maybe they've been stuck on a waiting list. Maybe they've been thinking about it, but they'll absolutely know that they want to have therapy. And for those people, it's very easy. You can download the Towards app. There's also a link, Rachel, I believe, from website to a website that will take you to the Towards
Correct.
landing page, and you can sign up there. The first session is free. It's on us. It's a proper session. It's 50 minutes with a qualified therapist to develop that shared understanding. And then we have a special offer where the second session we're offering 50% off. So it gives you a really good start to think about therapy and to really to make a very good start on that journey. Um, and then the second group of people, that second group of people will be thinking, I'm not sure. Sometimes it takes quite a lot of courage to have therapy, and people might be feeling a little bit tentative. And so come to the webinars. It's a really safe way of understanding more about therapy. It'll give you a really good idea of what therapy is about because the way that I will be approaching this, would be the way that I would work with somebody. So you'll get a bit of a taste. And then if you think, actually, this is great, I've learned a lot, but it's not quite hitting the spot. And it won't be quite hitting the spot because actually we're all different. So when I'm delivering a webinar to lots and lots of people, I have to be very general. I can't be specific to an individual person. So people may dip their toe in the water and think, actually, yeah, this makes sense. I get it. It's really falling into place, but I want it to be individual to me. This is not quite hitting the spot. And then the third group of people will be people who haven't considered the fact that they might need therapy. Come to the webinars. Maybe you don't need therapy, and that's fine too. But maybe you'll listen, you'll learn, and you'll think, actually, what she's talking about really applies to me. And it'll almost be that you'll have a light bulb moment, and you can see and think about how therapy might help you. So it's nice and simple to sign up. You'll see all of the therapists that we have. You can see the therapists that you can see in person in Leeds and in Bristol, and the therapists that you can see online too. And it's a choice. We have some amazing therapists. One of the reasons why we set up Towards is that, well, for me personally, is I wanted to have a really big impact at scale. and I wanted to set something up that was very different, very high quality. So I handpick and interview every single one of our therapists. And we have some great therapists that I would completely recommend and are really ready and waiting to see people and very excited about this important work. So people who specialize in helping people with their relationship with food and with weight, people who specialize in trauma and addiction. And if ever anybody wants some support and help in choosing their therapist, they should just reach out to us. And we'll have a conversation. One of the therapists will have a conversation to really pinpoint the therapist that is most likely to make the biggest difference. So you can make your own choice, or we can help you make the right choice for you. We have 3 price points, which is probably really important to mention. We have therapists in training. Now we have our own academy. We've partnered with the University of Exeter. I have written the training program and I co-deliver that. And these are really excellent therapists in training. We're able to offer a lower price point at £40 a session for them. And then we have senior therapists at £80 a session. And then we have specialist therapists, people like myself, who are £120 a session. So very simple, very easy, and highly effective. And I believe everybody's going to be in safe hands.
Amazing, thank you. And I truly believe that as well. I have one question, which is around the webinars. And I'm writing saying that individuals, if they feel there's a webinar that resonates with them, they can just come to that webinar. They don't have to sign up for the whole series. Um,
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a bit of a pick and mix.
yeah.
So each one is a standalone. If you come to all of them, you'll build up a series of skills, but absolutely come to any of them that you feel resonates with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I have one final thing, which is earlier you mentioned that you hope everyone has one takeaway from a webinar from each session. So I guess from today's, what would you hope that one takeaway would be for our members?
The one takeaway. There's hope.
Okay, amazing. So thank you so much, Sarah. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. We are super excited about this partnership and hope that it offers support to those that do need that support. So thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening to us.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.